Millionaire was left speechless, seeing his pregnant ex-girlfriend working at a construction site. Brandon Miller felt his world collapse when he recognized that familiar silhouette carrying wooden planks under the scorching sun. His ex-girlfriend from 5 years ago was there, with the prominent belly of an advanced pregnancy, working in conditions that made him stop his imported car immediately. It was when she turned to grab more materials that their eyes met. Amber Johnson dropped the tool she was holding, her calloused hands trembling as she recognized the man who once promised to stand by her side forever. "Brandon?" Her voice came out as a whisper, muffled by the noise of the machines around them. He stepped out of the car on shaky legs, trying to process the scene before him. The woman he once knew playing piano at college gatherings now wore a yellow hard hat and worn-out gloves, doing heavy labor at a construction site. "Amber, what are you doing here?" he asked, stepping closer slowly. She tried to step back, but the foreman appeared, shouting, "Johnson, what's this about stopping work to chat? Get back to your post now." "Sorry, Mr. Frank, I'm going," she replied, lowering her head. Brandon felt anger rise in his chest at how they spoke to her. "Excuse me, sir. I'm Brandon Miller from Miller Developments. May I speak with her for a minute?" The tone changed completely when the foreman heard the last name. "Of course, Mr. Miller, take your time. Johnson, attend to the gentleman properly." Amber glared at him with a mix of anger and embarrassment. "You don't need to use your name to protect me, Brandon. I can handle myself." "Handle yourself? Amber, you're pregnant. What happened? Where's the baby's father?" She hesitated, fidgeting nervously with her gloves. "That's none of your business. You disappeared from my life 5 years ago, remember?" The memory of their forced separation, orchestrated by his mother, hit Brandon like a punch to the gut. Mrs. Barbara had threatened to disinherit him if he kept dating a poor girl, and he, young and pressured, had given in. "Amber, Save it, Brandon. I built my life without depending on anyone after you left me, and I'm not starting now." A co-worker approached, concerned about the argument. "Amber, everything okay?" "Yeah, Debbie. Just someone I used to know passing by." Debbie eyed Brandon up and down suspiciously. Someone you used to know, dressed in a suit at a construction site. What a coincidence." Brandon realized he needed to leave before causing more trouble for Amber. "Amber, we need to talk properly. Can you give me your number?" "I don't have a phone, and even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you." "Then where do you live? Can I stop by after work?" "Brandon, forget you saw me here. Go live your rich life, and I'll live mine." She walked away carrying a heavy plank, and Brandon stood there feeling lost. The foreman approached again. "Mr. Miller, can I help with anything?" "That woman, Amber, how long has she worked here?" "About 4 months. She's a good worker, no trouble. A bit stubborn sometimes, but she does the job right." "And the pregnancy? How does she manage to work like this?" Mr. Frank lowered his voice. "Look, sir, between us, she hid the belly for 2 months. When I found out, I was going to fire her on the spot, but she begged so much I let her stay. Said she needed the money urgently." Brandon's chest tightened. "And the baby's father? From what I gathered from the other girls, the guy disappeared when he found out she was pregnant. Cowardly, right? But she doesn't like talking about it." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Brandon spent the next few weeks discreetly returning to the construction site. He discovered that Amber lived in a rented room at a boarding house in the neighborhood, frequently fainting from working without eating properly, and that her co-workers protected her like family. Debbie, who initially distrusted him, ended up sharing more details during a lunchtime conversation. "Dr. Brandon, can I tell you something? Amber is too proud for her own good. Just yesterday she fainted during lunch. She'd gone 2 days eating only bread with margarine to save money. Why won't she accept help? I've offered several times. Because the last man she trusted left her in the worst way. And from what I gather, that man was you." Brandon hung his head ashamed. "It was more complicated than that, Debbie. It always is, Doctor. But for her, all that's left is the abandonment. And now, pregnant and alone, She doesn't want to depend on anyone. Did the baby's father really disappear? Debbie glanced around before answering. Look, doctor, I'll tell you something she'd kill me for if she knew. That whole story about the father, she made it up. The baby has no father on record. From what I understand, it was a one-night thing. The guy doesn't even know she exists. Brandon felt like he'd been punched. What do you mean? She was going through a really rough time, drank too much at a party, and it happened. When she found out she was pregnant, she tried to find the guy, but he'd given a fake name. She made up that story about the boyfriend who ran off because it's less embarrassing than admitting she barely knew the baby's father. The revelation shook Brandon in a way he hadn't expected. All the anger he'd felt toward the supposedly irresponsible father turned into compassion for the difficult situation Amber was facing alone. That afternoon, when she left work, Brandon followed her at a distance. He saw her stop at the pharmacy, standing frozen in front of the prenatal vitamins, checking the price over and over before walking away. He saw her buy only a pack of saltine crackers at the corner store. He saw her climb the steep hill to the boarding house where she lived, stopping several times to rest. The next day, Brandon arrived early at the construction site and sought out Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank, I'd like to make a proposal. I need someone trustworthy to oversee some smaller projects for the company. Does Amber have technical knowledge? Kid, she knows more about construction than half the engineers out there. Learned it all hands-on, but she's got a sharp eye for quality. Why do you ask? I want to offer her a job as a construction supervisor. Better pay, lighter work, suited to her condition. Mr. Frank laughed. Good luck convincing her, doctor. That girl's more stubborn than a mule. Brandon knew he needed a different approach. He couldn't just offer charity, she'd refuse. He had to make it seem like she was doing him a favor. When Amber arrived for work, Brandon called her over. Amber, I have a job proposal for you. Brandon, how many times do I have to say it? I don't want your help. It's not help. It's work. I need someone to oversee some smaller projects, check quality, materials, deadlines. You've got technical know-how. You know the local workers. You're exactly who I'm looking for. She eyed him skeptically. And why me, of all people? Because in the months I've spent observing this site, I've noticed you always catch what's wrong. Just yesterday, you flagged those misplaced beams. Mr. Frank confirmed you've got a great eye for detail. What's the pay? Triple what you make here, plus meal vouchers and health insurance. What's the catch? No catch, Amber. It's honest work. You inspect, write simple reports, nothing too complicated. And it's a role I genuinely need filled. She was silent for a long time. Can I think about it? Of course, but don't take too long. I need someone starting next Monday. That night, Amber talked to Debbie about the proposal. Debbie, do you think this is some kind of trick? Amber, look, I know a gold digger when I see one, and Brandon doesn't strike me as that type. He seems genuinely concerned about you. But why? He abandoned me 5 years ago? Maybe because he's grown up, or maybe because he never really forgot you. I don't want to be anyone's pity case, Debbie. And who said it's pity? Have you stopped to think that maybe he really needs the help? And even if it were pity, Amber, you're pregnant, living in a boarding house room, working hard. This isn't the time for pride. It's time to think about the baby. On Monday, Amber showed up at the construction site looking for Brandon. I accept the offer, but I want to make one thing clear. This is strictly work, nothing more. Perfect. I'll show you the sites you'll be supervising. The first month was tough. Amber was professional and capable, but kept a cold distance from Brandon. He respected her space, but couldn't hide his concern when he saw her working while pregnant. Everything changed during an inspection at a Manhattan Beach construction site. Amber was climbing a ladder to check a wall's finish when she felt dizzy. Brandon, who was a few feet behind, saw her sway. Amber! He ran and caught her just before she fell. Are you okay? What happened? Just a dizzy spell. It's past. When was the last time you ate? She hesitated. This morning. Amber, it's 3 in the afternoon. You can't skip meals when you're pregnant. I know how to take care of myself, Brandon. Clearly not. Let's go eat now. He took her to a nearby restaurant and ordered a plate full of nutritious food. As she ate, Brandon watched her every move, worried. Why do you do this to yourself? Do what? Push yourself too hard, work too much, eat too little, live in an unfit place. Why? Amber stopped eating and glared at him. Because it's the life I can afford, Brandon. Not everyone was born with a silver spoon. But you studied, you're capable. You could be in a better situation. Could I? With what degree, with what connections? Brandon, when you left me, I was in my 5th semester of architecture. I had to drop out to work and support myself. In these 5 years, I've done it all. Waitress, cleaner, sales clerk. I learned construction on the job because it paid better. I didn't choose this life, it was the only option I had left. The revelation hit Brandon like a punch. He hadn't known she'd dropped out. Amber, I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You were too busy living your air life to care what happened to me afterward. It wasn't like that. My mother... Your mother what, Brandon? Forced you to abandon me, held a gun to your head. She threatened to disinherit me if I stayed with you. Said you were a gold digger, that you were only after my money. Amber laughed bitterly. And you believed her. I was young. I was scared. You were a coward, Brandon. And apparently still are, since to this day, you do what Mommy says. She stood up. Thanks for lunch. I'll finish the inspection. Brandon stayed seated, weighed down by her words. For the first time in 5 years, he saw clearly what he'd done. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a betrayal of every plan they'd made together, every dream they'd shared. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, continuing. That night, Brandon went to the boarding house where Amber lived. The place was even worse than he'd imagined. An old building with steep, dimly lit stairs. Her room was on the 3rd floor, and he could hear the noise from the street through the thin walls. He knocked on the door and waited. Who is it? It's me, Brandon. What do you want here? To talk, please. She opened the door wearing a simple nightgown, her belly more noticeable without her work uniform. Brandon, it's not appropriate for you to come here. Can I come in? Just for a few minutes. She hesitated but opened the door. The room was tiny, a bed, a small wardrobe, a table with a portable stove, and a sink. In the corner, she had set up a small space for the baby with a second-hand crib and a few little outfits. Is this where you live? It's what I can afford. Brandon looked around, imagining her there every day, pregnant and alone. Amber, about what you said today. Brandon, I don't want to relive the past. It hurt too much back then, and I don't want to hurt again. But I need you to know the truth. When my mother made me choose, I chose wrong. Not a single day has passed in these 5 years that I haven't thought about you, that I haven't regretted it. Then why didn't you come back? Because I'm a coward, just like you said, and because I thought you had moved on, that you were happy without me. I was trying to be happy, Brandon. I'm still trying. He stepped closer, slowly. And this baby? You said it's from a boyfriend who ran off, but... Amber took a deep breath. There is no boyfriend, Brandon. It was a night of too much drinking and poor judgment. A guy I met at a party. I don't even know his real name. When I found out I was pregnant, I tried to find him, but he'd given me fake details. I made up the boyfriend story because it's less embarrassing than the truth. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of lying, and because you've already seen me at rock bottom. I have nothing left to lose. Brandon felt a strong urge to hug her, but held back. Amber, let me really help you. Not as your boss, but as someone who cares about you. Brandon, I can't depend on you again. The last time I did, I fell apart when you left. I promise I won't leave again. How can I believe that? Your mother still exists, your family still has the same power to pressure you. Then I'll prove it to you. How? Let me take care of you and the baby. Not out of pity, not out of guilt. Because I want to, because I still feel something for you. Amber stared at him, her eyes filled with tears. Brandon, I can't go through that again. Not now, pregnant and this vulnerable. You won't have to, I promise. You can't promise anything, not when it comes to your family. She was right, and Brandon knew it. As long as he remained the obedient heir, there would always be the possibility of family pressure. Then I'll do things differently this time. How? I'll leave the family business. I'll start my own. I won't depend on them for anything anymore. Amber laughed dryly. Brandon, you don't know how to live without your family's money. You've never really worked a day in your life. Then it's time to learn. And if it fails, if you can't make it, will you give up on me again? I won't fail. And even if I did, I wouldn't give up on you. They fell silent for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the small room. I need time to think, Brandon. How much time do you need? I don't know. Maybe forever. It's hard to trust again when you've been broken once. Brandon knew he was asking a lot. He was asking her to bet again on a man who had already let her down deeply. But he also knew he couldn't live with himself if he didn't try. That's fine. I'll wait as long as it takes. But in the meantime, please, let me make sure you and the baby are okay. Not as your boyfriend, just as someone who wants what's best for you. What are you proposing? A better apartment, proper medical care, decent food. These basic things every pregnant woman should have. And in return? Nothing in return, Amber. Just the peace of mind of knowing you're both okay. She rubbed her belly thoughtfully. And your family? What will they say when they find out? They'll say whatever they want, not my problem. Amber studied him for a long moment, trying to figure out if he was sincere or just feeling guilty. All right, but with conditions, which are: first, this doesn't mean we're a couple. It's just you fulfilling a moral responsibility. Understood. Second, I'll pay you back once I'm financially stable. Amber, it's non-negotiable, Brandon. Take it or leave it. Fine. Third, if at any point you want out, you tell me in advance. No disappearing again without a word. I promise. They shook hands, sealing the agreement. Brandon left the boarding house with mixed feelings. On one hand, he was happy to help her. On the other, it hurt to see how hardened she'd become, how much their separation had damaged her ability to trust. The following week, Brandon rented a small but comfortable apartment in Santa Monica. 2 bedrooms, a living room, an open kitchen, and a tiny laundry area. Nothing luxurious, but clean, safe, and suitable for a mother and baby. When he took Amber to see the apartment, she was moved but tried not to show it. It's really nice, Brandon, thank you. The smaller room can be the baby's. I've already put in some basic furniture, but you can change everything however you like. She walked through the rooms, touching the furniture as if she couldn't believe it was real. It's been a long time since I've had a real home. Now you do. That night, Amber slept in a comfortable bed for the first time in months, but even then she struggled to relax. She was too used to the daily fight for survival, and the sudden peace made her anxious. Brandon started visiting regularly, always bringing something: fruit, pregnancy books, baby clothes. He was careful not to be intrusive, but Amber could tell he wanted to be more present. Brandon, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you doing this? Really? He took a deep breath. Because when I saw you working at that construction site, pregnant and struggling, I realized I'm responsible for part of what you've become. If I hadn't given in to my mother's pressure, maybe you wouldn't have dropped out of college. Maybe you'd be somewhere else in life. You're not responsible for my choices, Brandon. But I am responsible for mine, and my choice to abandon you had consequences for your life. And is it just guilt? Nothing else? Brandon looked her in the eyes. There's much more, Amber. 5 years of missing you, of regret, of wondering what it would have been like if I'd been man enough to stand up to my family. The fact that I never truly forgot you, that I could never get serious with anyone else because they were all compared to you. Brandon, but I know I can't just say this and expect you to forget the pain I caused. That's why I'm trying to prove it with actions. They were sitting on the apartment's couch when Amber felt the baby move. Want to feel? Brandon hesitated. Can I? She took his hand and placed it on her belly. The baby kicked right then, and Brandon smiled like a child. Wow, that's amazing. She's very active, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep. She? I'm almost sure it's a girl. Mother's intuition. Thought of a name? A few. But I want to wait until she's born to decide. In that moment, with his hand on her belly and the baby moving, Amber felt a flicker of hope. Maybe rebuilding something with Brandon was possible. Maybe people really could change. But her thoughts were cut short by a loud knock at the door. "Are you expecting someone?" asked Brandon. "No." He went to answer and turned pale when he saw who it was. "Mom, how did you find this address?" Mrs. Barbara Miller stormed into the apartment like a hurricane, her eyes scanning every detail before landing on Amber on the couch. "So it's true. You're supporting this gold digger again." "Mom, don't talk about Amber like that." "I'll talk however I want." "Brandon, have you lost your mind? You're supporting a woman pregnant with another man's child." Amber rose from the couch, trying to maintain her dignity. "Mrs. Barbara, with all due respect, you have no right to barge into my home and insult me." "Your home?" Barbara scoffed. "This place is paid for with the Miller family's money. My money. And I have every right to protect my assets from opportunists like you." "Mom, enough!" Brandon stepped between them. "Amber is no opportunist." "Isn't she? Then explain to me how a construction worker ended up with an apartment in Santa Monica, paid for by my son." "Because I wanted to help someone in need. Just anyone. Or the ex-girlfriend you never got over." Brandon's silence was answer enough for Barbara, who smiled victoriously. "I knew it. You're still in love with this woman." "What if I am?" "If you are, you'll have to choose again, Brandon. Her or the family." "Mom, I won't accept any more ultimatums." "Oh, you won't? Then let me spell it out for you. Either you stop this nonsense now, or I cut off your access to all company accounts, cancel your cards, and remove you from my will." "Go ahead then." Barbara seemed stunned by his response. "What?" "Do it, Mum. Cut me off. I'll manage on my own." "Brandon, you can't even fry an egg. How will you survive?" "I'll learn, like everyone else does." Amber watched the argument quietly, realizing this was the first time she'd seen Brandon truly stand up to his mother. "Brandon, you're making the biggest mistake of your life," Barbara said, playing her last emotional card. "The biggest mistake of my life was 5 years ago, Mom, when I chose to obey you instead of fighting for the woman I loved." The public confession hit Amber like lightning. Brandon had just admitted he loved her, in front of the mother who'd always opposed them. Barbara knew she'd lost this battle. "Fine, Brandon, but when you're broke, don't come crawling back to me." "I won't." She slammed the door on her way out, leaving a heavy silence behind. "Brandon, you didn't have to do that," Amber said softly. "Yes, I did. I should have done it 5 years ago. But now you've lost everything because of me." "I lost nothing worth keeping, Amber, and it wasn't because of you. It was because I finally grew up and learned to make my own choices." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It means the world to us, as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. In the weeks that followed, Brandon got a crash course in living without his family's wealth. Mrs. Barbara made good on her threats. She cancelled his cards, froze his company accounts, and changed every password. He rented a room in a boarding house near Amber's apartment, sold his imported car and bought a simpler used one. It was a far cry from his old life, but he was determined to prove he could stand on his own. "How are things?" Amber asked when he stopped by for a visit. "Different," he smiled, "but not impossible." "Found any work?" "Consulting for smaller construction firms. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills." "Any regrets?" Brandon looked at her, her belly now round and nearing delivery. "Not a single one." The answer came so quickly and firmly that Amber was surprised. "Even though you're struggling?" "Amber, these past few months have been the first time I've truly felt free to make my own choices. It's liberating not having to answer to anyone. But you were used to a different standard of living. I was used to a gilded prison. Now, even though I earn less, I feel richer because the money is truly mine." They were talking when Amber felt a strong contraction. "Ow! What's wrong?" "I think it's a contraction. But it's not time yet." "How many months are you?" 8.5. Another, stronger contraction hit, and Amber doubled over in pain. "Brandon, I think the baby's coming." He didn't waste a second. He grabbed the bag she'd prepared and rushed her to the hospital. On the way, the contractions grew more frequent. "Calm down, Amber. We're almost there." "Brandon, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "Of being a mother alone, of not being enough." "You're not alone, I'm here." "But what if you get tired? What if you decide this is too much?" "Look at me, Amber." She met his eyes despite the pain. "I'm not going anywhere. No matter what happens, I'll be here. For you and the baby. Even if it's not your child. Amber, I want to be the father this child deserves. If you'll let me." They arrived at the hospital just in time. Amber was taken straight to the delivery room, while Brandon waited anxiously, like any father-to-be. 3 hours later, a nurse appeared smiling. "Mr. Brandon, congratulations. You have a beautiful, healthy baby girl. Mom is doing well too." "Can I see them?" "Of course, go ahead." Brandon entered the room and saw Amber holding a tiny, perfect baby in her arms. When she looked up at him, her eyes were filled with tears. "Want to meet Emma?" "Emma? That's the name I chose. It means wisdom." Brandon stepped closer, overwhelmed. The baby was small, with dark hair and a peaceful face. "She's perfect, Amber. Want to hold her?" Brandon hesitated. He'd never held a newborn before. But Amber carefully placed little Emma in his arms. The baby opened her dark eyes and stared at him as if she recognized him. "Hi, Emma. I'm Brandon, and if your mom lets me, I'll take good care of both of you." Amber watched, moved. Brandon held Emma with such tenderness and love that he truly seemed like her father. "Brandon, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Put your name on her birth certificate as her father." "Amber, are you sure?" "I am. Emma deserves a father, and you deserve to be one. If you really want to be part of her life, more than anything in the world, then she'll be Emma Miller Johnson, half mine, half yours." Brandon trembled with emotion. He was being officially invited to be a father, to be part of a family. "Thank you, Amber, for giving me this chance. Thank you for coming back into our lives." They spent the next few days in the hospital, learning to care for Emma together. Brandon was clumsy at first, but dedicated, waking up for midnight feedings, changing diapers, giving baths. Amber was amazed at how quickly he'd adapted to fatherhood. "You're doing well for a beginner," she teased one night as he soothed a crying Emma. "I have a good teacher. And patience, too. A lot of men would run away from all this crying. Emma's just trying to communicate. Soon she'll learn we're her parents and stop fussing so much." The ease with which he said her parents made Amber's heart race. After so long preparing to be a single mother, she suddenly had a true partner in raising her daughter. When they left the hospital, Brandon had made an important decision. "Amber, I need to talk to you about something." "What is it?" "I want us to live together." "Brandon, let me explain. It doesn't have to be as a couple. It can just be like two friends raising a child together, each with our own room, no pressure, no romantic expectations, just an unconventional family." Amber thought about the proposal. On one hand, it would be nice to have help with Emma. On the other, she was afraid of getting used to his presence and then suffering if he changed his mind. What if it doesn't work out? If it doesn't, we'll talk and find a solution that's good for Emma. But I think it could work, Amber. We get along, care about each other, and clearly share the responsibilities with the baby well. So it would be like a partnership? Exactly. A partnership to raise Emma the best way possible. All right, but we keep separate rooms. Of course. They shook hands once more, sealing another agreement. But this time both felt it was more meaningful than the ones before. The routine with the baby was tough at first. Emma woke up every 3 hours, needed constant diaper changes, and had days of unexplained crying. But Brandon and Amber worked well as a team, taking turns with the care and supporting each other through the hardest moments. "Brandon, are you tired?" Amber asked one night when he had woken up for the 3rd time to soothe Emma. "A little, but it's a good kind of tired." "How so?" It's the tiredness of someone building something important, not like work exhaustion where you do it just for the money. Here, I'm helping raise a person, you know? It's different. Amber smiled. Brandon had truly become a different man from the one she knew in their youth. More mature, more responsible, more loving. Can I confess something? Go ahead. I was really scared I wouldn't be a good mother on my own. Having you here gives me a sense of security I didn't expect. You're an amazing mother, Amber, with or without me. But it's better with you. Her confession filled Brandon with deep happiness. Little by little, Amber was starting to trust him again. The following months brought a peaceful and happy routine. Brandon landed some better consulting contracts and was seriously considering starting his own company. Amber went back to school at night, finishing the architecture degree she had put on hold years earlier. Brandon took care of Emma during her classes. "How was it today?" he'd ask whenever she got home from college. "Hard, but good. It's been a while since I felt so smart." "You've always been smart, Amber. You just didn't have the chance to show it. And now I do, thanks to you. No, thanks to your effort. I just helped with the circumstances." One night, when Emma was 6 months old, they were watching a movie in the living room after she fell asleep. Amber was leaning back on the couch, tired from school and the day with the baby. Brandon watched her discreetly, noticing how she had regained her confidence since returning to her studies. "Amber? Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Are you happy? I mean, with this life we're building?" She thought before answering. "You know, Brandon, I spent so much time just fighting to survive that I forgot what it felt like to be truly happy. But yes, I am happy. For the first time in a long time. Even without being sure of what we are, without clear definitions. Maybe I'm happy because of that. There's no pressure, no unrealistic expectations. It's just life happening naturally. What if I said I want more?" Amber looked at him, her heart racing. "More how?" "More like a real relationship, not just a partnership to raise Emma." "Brandon, let me finish. These months living with you and Emma have been the best of my life. Not just because of fatherhood, but because of you. I've fallen in love with you all over again, Amber. Or maybe I never stopped being in love. What about your family? If we commit to this relationship, they'll pressure us even more. Let them. I don't care about their opinions anymore." "Brandon, it's easy to say that now. But if your mother shows up here again making a scene, if she threatens to do something against me or Emma, she won't do anything because she has no power over me anymore." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've learned to live without depending on them, and I've discovered I'm much stronger than I thought." Amber fell silent, torn between the fear of getting hurt again and the hope that Brandon had truly changed. "I need time to think." "How much time do you need?" "I don't know. It's a big decision, Brandon. It's not just about us. It's about Emma too. If it goes wrong, she'll suffer the consequences. And if it goes right, we could have a real family." They talked late into the night, exploring the possibilities and fears that this change might bring. By the end, they hadn't reached a conclusion, but both felt it was time to decide the future of their relationship. The following week, something happened that forced a decision. Mrs. Barbara showed up at their building, but this time she wasn't alone. She brought a lawyer and a court officer. "Brandon Miller?" asked the officer. "Yes, that's me. I have a court summons for you. Mrs. Barbara Miller is filing for guardianship, claiming you lack the mental capacity to manage your own affairs." Brandon was speechless. "What do you mean?" The family lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Brandon, your mother alleges you're in an altered mental state, making irrational decisions that jeopardize your personal and family assets. As evidence, she cites your abandonment of an executive position at a successful company to support a woman and child who aren't legally yours." "That's ridiculous. The law allows family members to petition for guardianship when there's evidence of self-destructive behavior or decisions that compromise the individual's well-being." Amber, listening from the apartment door, felt a chill in her stomach. Mrs. Barbara was willing to use the law to separate her son from them. "What does this mean in practice?" Brandon asked. If the guardianship is granted, your mother will control all your assets and financial decisions. You won't be able to sign contracts, rent property, or even support others without her approval. How long does this process take? It depends. It could take months or years, but there's a preliminary hearing scheduled for next week. After they left, Brandon and Amber stared at each other in silence. The situation had become far more serious than they'd imagined. "Brandon, is your mother insane?" Amber asked. "No, she's desperate, and desperate people do extreme things. But can this work? Can she really get guardianship over you?" "I don't know. Legally, maybe, if she can prove I'm acting against my own interests." "Are you?" "Financially, yes. I left a high-paying job to live more simply. I support you and Emma without any legal obligation to do so. Brandon, if this causes trouble for you, I can manage on my own again. I don't want you hurt because of me. Amber, I won't abandon you because of my mother's threats. But if she gets guardianship, you won't have a choice." Brandon thought for a moment. "Actually, I will." "How?" "By marrying me." "What?" "If we get married, I'm no longer supporting a stranger. I'm supporting my wife and daughter. That removes the main argument for the guardianship case." Amber was stunned. "Brandon, are you proposing to me to avoid a lawsuit?" "No, Amber. I'm asking you to marry me because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. The legal process just gave me the courage to propose sooner than I planned. But this is all so sudden, so complicated." "Life is complicated, Amber. The question is whether you want to face those complications alone or with me." She looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her crib, oblivious to the tension between the adults. What if it doesn't work out? What if we marry because of this pressure and later realize it wasn't what we wanted? What if it does work? What if we discover we're a real family? Amber took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision. "I need a night to think." "Okay, but remember the hearing is next week. If we're going to marry, it has to be soon." That night, Amber couldn't sleep. She paced around the apartment, watching Brandon asleep on the couch. He had insisted she take the main bedroom. Trying to imagine what married life with him would be like. On one hand, the last few months had been wonderful. They worked well as partners, as parents, as friends. Brandon had proven he'd changed, that he was willing to sacrifice comfort and status to be with her. On the other hand, marrying because of outside pressure wasn't exactly the dream romance any woman would want. In the morning, she woke Brandon with a cup of coffee. "Have you decided?" he asked, still groggy. "I have. I'll marry you." Brandon sat up quickly on the couch. "Really?" "Really, but on one condition." "What?" "That it's a real marriage. I don't want to marry just to solve legal problems. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." "What do you mean?" "I mean I want to be your real wife, Brandon. I want to share a bed, dreams, plans. I want Emma to have parents who truly love each other, not just tolerate each other." Brandon smiled like he hadn't in a long time. "Are you saying you love me?" "I'm saying I'm willing to try loving you again, and I think you deserve that chance." He stood and kissed her softly. "I love you, Amber. I never stopped loving you." "Then let's make it work this time." They married in a simple courthouse ceremony, with only Debbie and Mr. Frank as witnesses. Emma was in Amber's arms, dressed in a little white dress Brandon had bought especially for the occasion. "Now we're officially a family," Brandon said after the ceremony. "Now we are," Amber agreed, kissing him again. The guardianship hearing was a week later. Mrs. Barbara arrived with every legal resource possible, but her strategy had lost steam with her son's marriage. "Your Honor," said Brandon's lawyer, whom they'd hired in a rush, "my client isn't supporting strangers. He's supporting his legally recognized wife and daughter. Moreover, he has sufficient independent income to support his family and holds a steady paying job." The judge reviewed the documents and arguments from both sides. "Mrs. Barbara, I understand your maternal concern, but I see no evidence of mental incapacity in your son. His decisions may not please you, but they are the decisions of a competent adult. The guardianship request is unfounded." Mrs. Barbara left the courtroom furious, but defeated. Brandon and Amber celebrated their victory with a simple lunch at a nearby restaurant. It's over, Brandon said, relieved. No, Brandon. Now it really begins. What do you mean? Now that there's no outside pressure, no legal threats, we'll find out if we can build a real marriage. Brandon smiled and took her hand across the table. We'll make it, Amber. I'm sure of it. How can you be so sure? Because this time I'm fighting for you, not running from you, and that makes all the difference in the world. End of the story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave your honest thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Brandon made the right decision by standing up to his family? We love reading your opinions. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting stories.